My guest today is an Olympic gold medalist, several time world champion, national championships at college. She's been all around the world sailing. We talk about her move from England to the United States, going through that as at the age of 12 is. I mean, moving anywhere at 12 is difficult, but she moved across the country. So going through all those, running track, finding sailing, finding that she loved sailing when she moved over to here, um, and like I said, going through high school, finding a college that she could sail at, deciding exactly what she wants to do, and just competing all the time, not only in the Olympics but competing in all these world championships, competing in CrossFit games. So she's just a competitor, and it was great for her. It was great to hear from her about all her training and everything she goes through. It was a really great episode just to get an insight on someone who has been to the Olympics and what it takes to compete at that level. Please follow our other show at the Nerdball Network, Three Different Dads. It's on its own feed now, so just look for Three Different Dads wherever you find this podcast. We're coming out every Wednesday morning with episodes. Please reach out to us here at the Nerdball Podcast, nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. And as always, thanks to Fort Meigs CrossFit for allowing us to use their studio space. It's been a great resource for me, and I look forward to continue recording out of there. We got a full slate for February where every episode is in the studio, so I'm excited for that. But enough of where you can find us and how to contact us. Here is our guest for this week.
I'm Anna Tunnicliffe Tobias, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Perfect, Anna. Thanks for coming on my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We went to the same high school at the same time, and I think this is the most words we've ever said to each other. But it's because you were 3 grades older than I was.
Yes.
Although I talked to your brother David quite a bit in high school, which
okay,
yeah. And we were on a track team together. But that is pretty much the extent of what I know about you, besides looking at your Wikipedia page 5 minutes before we came on this Zoom. So again, thanks for coming on. The first question I ask people is what is something you've been nerding out about lately? So something you're really into, books, movies, TV shows, classes you're taking, something that just gets you like away from the daily thing that you do, your daily job, something that just you can kind of break away and feel happy about doing.
Ooh, that's a good one. I've been super busy lately. I finished my MBA, so that was taking up a lot of time.
Oh, wow.
But since then, I kind of getting into I started competing again for the Olympics,
Okay.
trying for the Olympics again. So I've been reading a book about the mental side of sports and staying positive and having confidence in your approach to what you're doing.
Do you, being as I've never been competing in the Olympics, and so when you say confidence, because you won a gold medal, like, is there always just a lack of that, even though you were at the top of the sport? Like, is there just a lack of like, I'm not as good as I used to be, or these other people are better? Like, it's shocking to hear that, I guess, because I've never been at that level.
Yeah, I don't think it's a lack of confidence per se. I think it's more of a, in everything that we do, we either want to achieve something or we're better at like one part of it than the other. So for sailing, there's so many different variables that go into sailing. Like the wind's different, the waves are different. So a lot of sailors are really comfortable in, say, the big breeze and not as comfortable in light winds, or vice versa.
Okay.
So a little bit of that of, talking to yourself and focusing on reminding yourself that you are good in all of those conditions. You just tend to feel more comfortable in some than the other.
Okay.
And then, and then how to stay positive about achieving your goal, because, it's sports. Someone's got to lose and someone's going to win, so it's very easy for athletes to let they're like, I'm gonna win, but this could happen. So it's about trying to cut out that but.
Yeah. So you talked about reading that book. Is that something you try to do ever since you've been competing in world championships and just competing in sailing in general? Is that like just find information, not only like how to do it, but like this one is more mental stuff? Is that something you've done through your whole career?
On and off. I
Yeah.
find the mental game interesting. I'm not. I kind of like to be like super tough on myself,
Sure.
and try and have a no emotional approach to things. And so these books kind of help me if for one reason or another, like I start getting in my own mind down the emotional side of it. It kind of brings me back into the less emotional, more factual, and how to channel that energy in a positive way.
I'm assuming you talk to other competitors too. Is that something you guys kind of share? Like, hey, how do you get through this? Or I not necessarily how to, how to do it, but I'm sure that comes up too. But just being a mental thing, taking a mental toll on you on whatever you're doing. Are there shared experiences with that?
I don't really talk to other competitors about it. I think everybody has their own personal journey. Some people like to talk to sports psychologists. Some don't. Everybody has their own way of dealing with it. So,
Okay.
in these books that I read, like it gives shared examples of what people do. And I think, you pick and choose what relates to you just to make you better or as best you can be.
Yeah. Well, I imagine just like with actually doing the sport, there's trial and error. Like, oh, I'm gonna try this, and oh, that didn't work. Or this book, I started it, and I really wasn't feeling it. It's just trying different things.
Exactly.
Um, so let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
So I was born and raised in England.
Okay.
I lived there until I was 12 years old. Then I moved to Perrysburg, Ohio.
What made that move there from England to little old Perrysburg?
My dad got transferred in his company
Yeah.
to a plant out near Perrysburg. So that's where we ended up. And that was my first time ever being to America.
Yeah.
The only like picture I had of America was from the movie Grease, and I thought all of America was like Greece. So when I arrived and we landed in Detroit, I was like, "What? It's all fields."
Yeah. It's in Greece.
Yeah. And then I, then going to school, the schooling was definitely different from what I was used to in England.
How
Not
so
not
saying that, how was the transition then from, because you're 12 is I mean it's difficult to move anywhere at 12, let alone to a different country. But how was it for you to like, because you said schooling's different. I mean everything's different. So what was the most difficult part about it?
well, probably like the friends and like figuring out like where you fit in.
Yeah.
And then just adapting the different culture. Like I'd gone to the same school all through elementary, and then my last year in England was I'd moved to, it was high school, but it was like sixth grade through 12th grade, or
Okay.
their version of sixth grade through 12th grade, all in one building. So I'd moved to that. And but I'd basically been with my same classmates all the way through the elementary school.
Mhm.
And then some of my friends were in my classes, but we are all in the same school, just now there was more of us there. And so I just kind of made all these new friends. So I was a brat moving. I like put up temper tantrums left and right, told my parents I wasn't coming, I was running away. I felt bad. I feel bad now. I hated the idea of it at the time. But then yeah, moving over, just finding um like which how kids are. You have your group, right?
Mhm.
Like your little clique.
Yeah.
So finding like where I kind of fit in and who my clique was. And then again, it's schooling itself. Like I always wore uniforms to school.
Mhm.
So coming into a public school where you could wear what you want, I was like, what? I have like three outfits,
Yeah.
because
I was the
I
same
only had
way.
to wear the same thing all the
Yeah.
time. And so, the normal pressures of like all of that like I never even crossed my mind when I was in
Mhm.
England because this is what we wore,
Yeah.
so
Well, that is, I mean, not only do you have to worry about I'm moving across the country, but now you're like I did not know how to dress myself because I was the same way. I went to a Catholic school and I wore uniforms all the time. I'm like, wait, I got to figure out. I
Yeah,
don't wear jeans ever. Like I figured it out. So and added pressure to trying to look
look
as cool
cool.
as yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I failed at that. I think I still fail at that. So I've
Well,
come to
yeah.
terms with it now in my later years, but
Yeah, all I wear is since I coach at Perrysburg, all I wear is the free t-shirts I get and shorts. So yeah.
perfect.
So navigating what at that point was sixth grade, going into junior high and high school, moving to Perrysburg. I'm assuming you got and maybe I'm wrong, but did you get into sailing when you lived in England?
Yes, so I come from a sailing family. My
Okay.
parents, my whole family actually sails. And my parents, when I was young, bought an old 40-foot wooden yacht, and they gutted it, stripped it, redid it all,
Oh
rebuilt
wow.
it basically. And so we sailed in England. Our school holiday in the summer was 5 to 6 weeks. So we would spend 4 weeks of that on the boats cruising up the English coast to Scotland and down the locks in Scotland.
Okay.
So that was in my younger years, and so I had to learn how to sail just in case something happened to them on the boat. They wanted me and my brother to know how to drive the boat, what to do with the sails, at least how to make the boat stop and keep it safe. And so we learned that at a young age, and then we started to get then they bought a racing boat and we started racing with them, and we got our own little, they're called Optimists, so like an 8-foot pram boat that are super big in youth sailing. And to be honest, I absolutely hated sailing.
Really?
Hated it. It was so cold. I wasn't very good. It was just not fun.
Mhm.
But I did it because it was that was set on shore, and I think I've always had some sort of like competitiveness in me that I wanted to
Yeah.
do it. I just wasn't very good at it, so that's why I hated it. And then when we moved to America, we joined our yacht club in LaSalle, Michigan, at North Cape Yacht Club.
I was gonna ask you like where around here where that would
Yeah,
be, but okay.
yeah, and then, it's not very far away. So we joined there and joined the youth program, and I'm like, whoa, it's like hot, the water's warm, like this is a little more fun. I'm winning races every now and then, like cool. And it
Yeah.
kind of like snowballed from there. I started to really enjoy the sport and love it. And then even then, like we only did it in the summertime because there was no high school sailing for us there. Like around a lot of the coastal schools, there's high school sailing, but sailing for us was a summer sport. School was done, you went sailing. And so summer school came back, it was track or cross country or whatever sports you were in.
So do you because that amazes me even more because it's sometimes when you're like, okay, I'm going to do this sport to the highest level I can do it, you're able to do it all the time. And even at a young age, right? That's how you get really good at it. Um, but being here, like we have winters and that's something you're not able to do. Like where was a shift from like, all right, um, I got to move somewhere else or I got to do something if this is what I want to keep doing.
So I think it all so in 96, I decided I wanted to go to the Olympics. Like I was 12, 13, whatever, when the Atlanta Olympics was on. I was
When
like, I'm going to go win a gold medal one day.
when you hated sailing. Yeah, no, I just
Yeah,
no,
I think I just moved to America. So it
okay,
was
okay.
like after my first summer here.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay, so I like sailing, right?
Okay.
But I didn't know what sport I wanted to go in, right? I just said I want to go.
Okay.
Because I was still swimming, a little bit, and it wasn't until high school that I got, I want to say dragged into running. I was dragged into running. I ended up enjoying it a lot, but it was not like out of choice really that I did it
Who pulled you into
initially.
that then?
So my brother joined the cross country team
Okay.
in ninth grade or eighth grade or something. Anyway, when he came to the high school, um, Abby was on the team, and she told my brother to like convince me to come to a practice.
Yeah.
And I was like, fine. So I came and I kind of liked it a little bit. And then it grew from there.
Yeah.
So like my senior year was when I ran, and it's because Abby convinced my brother to talk me into coming to a practice.
Oh, so you didn't do it all throughout high school. It was just those 2 years.
No, only my last 2 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's my running career was 2 years high school,
Wow.
junior and senior year.
Yeah.
And then so at that point I was like, well, I could go to college for, I knew I wanted to keep doing sports. I was like, I could go to college for running
Mhm.
or I could go for sailing. And I was like, well, running in school doesn't really sound fun, right? Like forced to wake up. Like I can't imagine having to do a practice like, after having a good college night out, right?
Yeah,
Like that
sure.
sounds terrible. Whereas I'm pretty sure you could do okay sailing, even if you're slightly hungover.
Mhm.
So anyway.
What are you going to tell me you're saying that like that's never happened before? I mean, sometime in your career that has had to happen, right?
What, that I've partied and then went sailing the next
Yeah,
day?
yeah.
I don't know what you're talking
Okay,
about.
all right.
I mean, we're all in college, right? You all gotta
Sure,
have a good
yeah. No, I
time.
get it. I get it.
Um, so yeah, so then I was like, right, I'm gonna go to school for sailing.
Mhm.
And that's how I ended up choosing Old Dominion. And even going into college, like I wasn't good. Like I was okay.
Okay.
Um, so I wasn't like recruited or anything like that. I just joined the team, and my team at Old Dominion, the seniors were really good. They were ranked number one in the co-ed division and the women's division nationally. So when I show up to practice, I get my ass handed to me on day one, and I was like, Jesus, these guys are good. But it was great because I got pounded for a year, just beat. And then our seasons, you sail basically from September to beginning of November, and then you start up again mid-February through May or
Okay.
June, whenever nationals are. So we have a really long season. So I get, we practice 6 days a week, and it's just rep after rep after rep, and by the time they left, I was like, whoa, like significantly better. I learned how to practice. I learned how to have a consistent coach, and got a lot of discipline on how to train and get better. And then from my second semester sophomore year through my end of my senior year, I sailed every weekend we were in season. And so I just got a ton of sailing time and just learned a whole lot. And that's kind of what kickstarted my sailing.
Was that going to college and sailing there? Was that your first time having a like structured program and a structured coach and like all these things?
I mean, yes and no. Like we had like our coach in the youth program at North Cape, but that's just a summer program, and it's the practices were an hour or two, twice a week or something, and then you'd go race on the weekends, and a coach might come if they could. So we did have help. We had members that were super supportive and definitely influenced a lot of my sailing. But yes, I would say having that like structure of, I was going to get yelled at by a coach if I screwed something up or like that was new. And I think definitely developed me as a sailor. And my coach there, Mitch Brinley, our head coach, was awesome. And he actually was my Olympic trials coach and came to the Olympics with me too. So he made a big impact on my life and my sailing career from a very early age. So freshman year college onwards.
Yeah. When you showed up for that first practice and you said you got your butt kicked, was there at any point in that day or first few weeks, wherever you're like, man, maybe this isn't for me? Or did you use that to be like, okay, I want to be as good as them?
Yeah, I don't like losing. So I used it as no, I'm going to get you. And I didn't freshman year, but
yeah,
yeah.
you keep saying how competitive you are. Was that something? I'm asking because my daughter is 8 right now, and she is competitive in everything to the point where we don't even like playing board games with her because she gets upset and stuff. Was that like? And I'm just asking like where this is going. Like what can I expect? Was it how you were? Like have you always been competitive like this?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I again, it's not that I ever like winning. I just don't like losing. Right. So the idea of loss is disastrous to me. So I think probably, and I think I get it from my parents, right? Like, I think my dad comes from a very competitive background, and that's why he's successful. And he had a good sailing career. Same with my mother. She's not necessarily competitive in the sense of like she wants to beat everybody down, but she sets incredibly crazy goals against herself and goes out and tackles them and won't accept an L at all. So I think it's just part of our genetics. So yeah, I think you might be in trouble.
I'm nervous about it, but I'm hoping that it's got to turn into something positive. Like it's gotta I don't know. She's got to be, even it's not necessarily sports, or maybe it's just in her business or whatever. Like it's got to propel her to do something good, or to be good at something. I'm hoping like we can get through some board games here every once in a while. That's all.
Well, hopefully you will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like she does baton right now, and it's a solo sport. She has a team and they do team routines, but it's mainly solo. And she's been doing it for 5 years, since she was 3, and she's really good at it. I'm just worried, like, and I don't know if there's any advice or whatever. Like, I'm worried, like, because it's a solo thing and it can be in her head so much. And I know she's little, so it's not so much in her head, but I'm worried that there isn't a lot I can do besides just be like, well, good job, or hey, get him next time. Like, that's for me,
Yeah.
it's hard to do because I'm a coach. I can coach football. That's a team sport. I can coach, basketball, all these other things I know how to do. I don't know anything about baton besides watching
Right. I mean, I don't know. My parents did a great job of always making sure that it was fun,
her.
right?
Okay.
Like it was like my mantra through my youth sailing, and I still hold it today. Like I sail for fun, and winning is the added bonus.
Okay.
Like, yeah, okay, winning is like the goal, obviously, but like we're lucky that we get to do what we do,
Mhm.
and I have such a good time doing it. So as long as I'm still loving it, then it's good. Like anytime like that love stops, then it's time to take a little break from it. But
Sure.
yeah, like they did such a good job of like drilling that into my mind that like this is fun. Like this should be fun. Keep it fun.
Okay.
And it's played a huge part in it.
I just hold a big banner at our competitions. It just says fun. Just
Just have fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're at college, and I am very naive to the sport of sailing. I don't know much about it besides the little bit I read about you. And are there? I know there's obviously solo things, but are there team things too that like in college that you were? I don't know if you were a part of, or you were just did solo stuff.
I know. So most of college sailing actually is team. So it's either doubles. So you sail most of the time you sail a boat with 2 people.
Okay.
And so you have like there's the co-ed division, and in the co-ed division there's two divisions. So there's it's called an A division and B division. And each division races their own division, and then you total the scores at the end. Same in the women's division, there's an A and B, and you total scores at the end. There is solo sailing, but there's only one, at least when I was sailing, there was only like 3 regattas the whole season. So like some practice regatta, basically a qualifier, and then nationals.
Okay.
And then in this spring they do it's called team racing. So you have your 2 people in one boat, but you have 3 people on one team, and you try and beat 3 people on the other team. So you only have a 6-boat race, and it's about combinations of trying to get your team in a better position across the finish line than the other team.
Okay. And it is like racing where it's like whoever finishes first. It's not based on anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're in college and you're competing and you're winning. You guys, I mean, your team's really good from what I'm reading. You guys have won national championships. Are you there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, we won 1 as a women's team my freshman year, and then I won 3 individual sophomore through senior year.
what how does, because obviously I feel like the answer is obviously winning a gold medal at the Olympics, but along the way, like all these competitions, winning like has to feel like the Olympics. Like we won a national championship, or I won this world championship. Like all these things are just like they just seem really awesome, and like you're doing these things with your team and solo. Like, is there a point where like in college you're like, wow, this is the best, and I don't know if anything's going to top this. Obviously there are and there has, but like, is that your feeling at the time, like when you're in college?
In college I was very excited about the wins. It was a huge learning, and it was kind of all building on the goal that I had to be college sailor of the year. So all these wins were like, that was like at the time the award to be winning.
Yeah.
So the female college sailor of the year. So that was my goal then. And to be honest, like I wanted to go into Olympic sailing through college, but the boat that there was at the time was a little cost prohibitive for me to do it. So it was, I'm probably going to go into accounting. So let's really enjoy this right now.
Oh boy.
And then my senior year, they changed the boat going forward. So it made it that I could afford it
Okay.
right out of school. But yeah, at the time I was like, wow, this is great. This is the goal. And, that college sailing is its own journey. Like looking back on it, it was 4 years that was super valuable to helping me get to where I am now.
Mhm.
But yeah, at the time, like those 4 years were like the center of my focus of this is what I was going to do. Because yeah, even though I had this goal of going to the Olympics, it wasn't actually something that seemed that feasible at the time. So I just kind of focused on the now.
Okay. And then now at one time was accounting.
Yeah.
Accounting. It's such I wasn't expecting to hear that. I don't know. I think it's funny to me that because obviously they're two totally different things, but like the way you said it though is like, well, to me it felt devastating. You're like, well, I guess, and because the only thing that was holding you back was money, like being able to afford this boat to do your thing. You're like, well, I can't do that. I guess I got to do accounting. Like when you hit that point, was it just like I said, it to me it was devastating. Like, and I'm not you, I'm not going through it, but it just seemed like it's such a difficult choice, but also at the same time an easy one because obviously I can't do it because I don't have money.
No, so my other goal in life was to be really rich and to be a CFO of like some massive company. So
Yeah.
I actually really love accounting.
Okay.
I
All
know
right.
that might sound nerdy, but I actually loved it. Like I took um the accounting classes at Perrysburg High School with
Mhm.
Mrs. Shop, and I loved the subject. And so yeah, I was like super excited to get into that field and do it. But obviously, like, yeah, being able to play around in sports all day sounds
Sure.
better than anything, really. So, when that opportunity presented itself, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go do that instead.
Yeah.
But no, like, I did really have a goal of, trying to go make a lot of money and be at the top of my game in that field.
Well, I guess
Um,
I should have expected that answer.
but instead, I'm just broke doing Olympic sailing. So. But I'm having fun, so that's good.
Have fun. Yes, yes. Um, in college, were you running and all that kind of stuff too? Still?
I just to stay in shape,
Okay.
running. I
All right.
got introduced to weightlifting.
Mm.
So yeah.
Um, this is just a stupid question from a coach, but in football, if we get mad at our kids, we make them stand on the line and do sprints. In college, when you guys get in trouble, is there any punishments like that? I would imagine it's very similar, but I just didn't know if there was something like that.
Um, did we ever get in trouble? I don't know if we as a team got in trouble. I'm sure we did, but there was nothing scarring
Nothing that's
that happened.
well,
We
I
might have
would
had
hope.
to wash boats or something like that. Or we had to like miss a practice and clean stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, nothing too scarring.
Was there anything because it seems to me sailing can be dangerous because I mean, I guess anything can be dangerous. Has there been any times for you where it's like, oh man, maybe I should rethink doing this?
No. I mean, yeah, sailing is dangerous, but so is crossing the road.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's all part of the game, right? Like
Yeah.
you could get hit in the head and, you know, you could be killed instantly. You could
Mhm.
drown, but, hopefully you're taking the precautions. I'm big into safety, so I always wear a life jacket on the water. I always have a knife in my life jacket just in case. So, um, but yeah, if it's that time, it's that time.
Sure. Man, that anything that I don't do seems super dangerous. Like, I mean, football's dangerous and people get upset about a concussion and stuff, which in reality, it's not even the sport that you get the most concussions. So, but from the
Yeah,
outside, it looks like, man, there's a guy that from the Bills that almost died on the field. People see that
right.
kind of stuff, but you're right. Like, you can get
Part of the
hurt
game.
crossing the street, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So okay, so you finish up, you discover they're changing the boat. You can, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go for my Olympic dreams. Um, I think it's more out there now that people notice, but when you're in the Olympics, it's not like people are paying you a lot of money to like do it. In fact, I'm assuming you got to pay for everything all the time. And you might get a little bit at the end when you win a gold medal, possibly. So going through this, being able to get, purchase this boat to actually compete in the Olympics, um, how hard is it just to once you leave college, you're on your own, or you have a coach or a couple coaches? How hard is it just to keep it going, not only financially, but just like time and energy and just trying to reach your goal?
So it's a lot. So financially, it is quite difficult. It is an expensive sport. We do have a federation, so the U.S. Sailing Federation. They do support their top athletes with some funding and coaching and logistics help. They for the most part do a really good job with that. It still doesn't cover the whole budget though. So your budget could be anywhere from like when I first started it in 2000 for the 2008 Olympics, my budget was like 120,000 a year. Then I moved to the London Olympic and our budget was close to 200,000+ a year. So that's like a huge part of it because you have to find sponsors and donations and do fundraisers and everything like that in addition to the support that you're getting from the federation. And then outside of that, it's time. It's you put in your hours training, you're debriefing. So your debriefs are like an hour and a half a day after you've done 3 or 4 hours on the water, and then after that you're doing logistics and more fundraising and blogs and all of that. So but it's fun, it's part of the job. Like you're not just going out training for 2 hours and then you're done for the day. No, you do actually work most of the day because you got to fit the gym in there too, so as well. So.
That is an entirely too long of a day, but again, if you are striving to be your best, this goal you set as a 13-year-old to be in the Olympics, I think that was the goal, just to be in the Olympics, or was it to win a gold medal?
To win a gold medal.
Okay, so your goal as a 13-year-old, win a gold medal. Do you look at your life now, you're like, my 13-year-old self made this goal and I accomplished it? Obviously there's more goals I want to do now, but I accomplished my 13-year-old self goal, and how like amazing that is. Because I mean, I could ask my 11-year-old son now, what do you want to do? He's like, I don't know, I want to play Fortnite or whatever, right? to have this goal and that something that you accomplished, to me, is amazing. Like, do you look back on that and think like, this is my dream became a reality?
Yeah, for sure. It was nice. As I say, when I won, it wasn't like I was extremely happy and over the world and super proud and everything, but it was also so much relief. like I've had this goal for so long, I've put in all this work, and like, thank God we did it, so it was but yeah, like looking back at it and being like, wow, if I hadn't actually ever said that, I don't know if I would be here. But it's nice to see it fulfill itself.
Yes. Do you when you were headed into the Olympics before you won a gold medal, how did you feel, or where were you according to rankings? Like, did you think like, hey, I have a real shot at this, or like where were you headed into that?
I was ranked number 1 going in. So the and
I feel like that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, no. Because we have, if we think about it, right, like the leading into the Olympics, each Olympics is every 4 years, right? So there's a 4-year build up to this. And so after 3 years, I was already ranked in the top 5 in the world.
Okay.
So just every event you get ranking points and you shift up and down, whatever. And me and the other American girl were ranked number 1 and 2 for a large majority of those 3 years. So we'd been at the top. We'd had all this pressure, but it wasn't really, because it was just like going out and trying to beat everybody.
Yeah.
And then the test event, so the basically the dress rehearsal for the Olympics the year before, I won that one. And so I honestly felt so comfortable in the venue. Like I understood the currents, I understood the wind. I just felt really comfortable going into that sailing event. And I think that helped a lot. And additionally, like our Olympic trial system is super intense. And it was miserable. Like, it was a 9-day event that was absolutely miserable. And it definitely got me ready for the Olympics. Like, the amount of stress and pressure during that event made the Olympics feel a little bit easier.
Yeah, and I guess that's what you want, right? You want the actual event, the day of the event, to be normal and to feel as easy as it can. And maybe that's why those trials are so difficult. And you're talking about the 4-year buildup and how, like, it just seems like an eternity to like get to this time where you're competing for a medal. And I know for like for track, you can do all this work and then you get disqualified. You don't even get to run your race. Like when I thought of that when you said like, hey, I want to go medal. I'm glad. Finally we did it. But like just to go through all this training and 4 years of stuff and then to not do well. That's why I said like seems like a lot of pressure. Like it just seems too much sometimes, but to go through that, go through the limit trials and get there the day of your race, to and please explain this to me. I'm assuming there just it's similar to track where there's different heats and stuff, and then there's not.
No, so the way the sailing works for most of the time, sailing is let's say I think there were like 25 boats or something that qualified, 25 countries qualified. Okay. And it's called an opening series. So we race, I think we did 9 or 10 opening races.
Okay.
Where we all race together. And it's everybody on the race course at the same time. First person crosses the line, they get 1 point. Second place gets 2 points, etc. on down. At the end of that opening series, the 10 boats with the lowest amount of scores move into what's called the medal race.
Okay.
You carry your score over, but the medal race counts as 2 points. So if you get first place, you get 2 points. If you get second, you get 4 points. Right. So it puts the pressure and it makes the scores all of a sudden like close up.
Mm-hmm.
So going into the medal race in China in 2008, I had a 7-point lead on the second place boat. But with the double point system, it meant I only had like a 3.5-point lead.
Okay.
So it makes the final race like a little bit more pressure intensive and tight and fun to watch.
Sure. But I mean, having all those races, that even you just keep making me think there should be more pressure, because that is a lot of races where anything can go wrong. You can end up with a high score. Like it just like
you can.
Yeah.
Yep. It's part of the game.
Yeah, man, that's so intense. But it's cool. It's cool that obviously that I say it's cool to win a gold medal. Like, yeah, it is.
It is. Yeah.
Well, did you have the opportunity to pick which country you wanted to race for, or like how did that work since you were born in England?
To be fair, it didn't even cross my mind.
Oh, nice.
I was racing for America.
Okay.
When I became an American citizen in 2002, 2003, something,
Mm-hmm.
I got basically you renounce your citizenship to your former country and you only have your American passport. So I could have gone and gotten my British one again afterwards, but it didn't even cross my mind. I was like, I'm nice. American. I'm going to race for America.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So, what does it feel like to stand on the podium when they're and put a gold medal around, because you're just by yourself with the second place and third place person? What does it feel like? Can you describe like just being up there listening to the national anthem with the gold medal around your neck?
It's surreal. It's the dream, right? It's
yeah.
It's because it's happening in the now. You're like on cloud 9, like you don't even feel like it's real. It wasn't until like after the press conference, after the award ceremony, and I got back to my room and I was by myself, that's when it hit. I was like, fuck, I just won. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
That's when it kind of all sank in and I just like burst into tears, like in my room by myself. But being on the podium, it was, amazing seeing my parents out there, like proud and having the American flag flying. Like, yeah, it was a job done. Yep.
When does that switch flip and you're like, all right, on to the next thing? Because I feel like it seemed like it would be pretty quick for you, because you're just like,
yeah, it did. Yeah. It happened fairly quick. Yeah. I think I took like a month off and started diving into the next one, and I switched disciplines for the next one. Actually, no, I think I sailed one more year in that boat, and then I switched disciplines and sailed a different type of boat. But yeah, I was right back into it.
How was what do I want to say? Like, because when people, obviously there's big sporting events that are covered more, like, especially in America, like we care about these sports. Like, how was there any fanfare? It was just like, well, here's my parents, my brother, and my friends and family, and then on to the next thing? Or was there people like reaching out to you or, trying to talk to you about winning the gold medal?
Some people did. But like the cool thing about sailing is a lot of the time, well, it's the cool, but like the downside a little bit is usually our sailing is done it's called a satellite location. So like the Olympics were in Beijing, but we were sailing in Qingdao. The
Okay.
London Olympics were in London, but we were sailing in Weymouth. So we're always a few hours away from like the main city.
Mhm.
So you are like in the satellite city, like you are the sport. So everyone's watching
Oh,
that
okay.
sport and everything. So, in China, they were so excited. In England, I screwed it up, so nobody was excited. But the but it like in the satellite city, like that's their
Yeah.
sport, so they're super excited about it. When I came back to the US, like yeah, people reached out, people were excited. The downside is there's so many people win gold medals that like not many people even know what sailing is. So
Yeah.
I did go
Well,
on the Oprah show. I
oh,
went to
did
the
you?
White House.
See, that's
Um,
what I'm talking about. Like how, okay,
like that was
so
cool, but you're
yeah.
like hanging out with like, and it was great because I got to meet like the gymnasts, like that they were there, but you'd also hang out with the other sports that were, super small that nobody really knew about or anything. So like, oh, you're
They
cool,
just
we'll
clump
be
you all
friends.
together.
Yeah,
You know each other.
yeah, we're small, we'll be buddies. So yeah, so that was cool.
Um, and now your picture gets to hang in Pearisburg High School for forever. So that's cool too.
Yeah, yeah.
I do like because some of my friends are on, well, they changed it all now. It's all digital, but there used to be a board with like state championships and all this stuff. I do like telling, like, showing my kids or showing people I know, like, oh, there's one of my best friends is on a state board, or, oh, I say, oh, like, I was on, I don't say I talked to you or knew you, but I say, I was on the track team when she was on the track team.
That's funny.
So after your month off, you see Oprah, see the White House. How was the White House? Was it cool there?
Yeah, it was cool. It was
Yeah.
it was a very fast, like whirlwind sort of thing, right? Like you just usher you on through. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was cool.
Yeah. They don't need tiny sports there. Get out of there.
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Oprah. So how was it? That seems obviously all the stuff you do to me seems really cool. But that seems really cool just to go on there and like, was it the same thing when you were at the White House, like just a bunch of people, or did you get to be on there and talk and
No, I wasn't picked out. It was just a bunch of athletes,
okay.
they picked, I don't know, X number of athletes to come, and I was part of the mass group that came.
Yeah. Did you at least get to shake hands and say hello to Oprah?
Maybe. I honestly don't remember. I know
Oh,
I did
really?
it. I don't remember. It was
Oh, wow.
it was a while ago.
Oh, yeah. All right. So after your celebration month, and you get right back at it, is right away. I would imagine there's world championship stuff. Are you focused on a particular event or particular thing, or is it just like, hey, we're just going sailing, practicing some more?
No, so it's you do a lot of training, but you have your peak events. So like the World Championships or the European Championships, North American Championships, whatever's, and if you have a qualifying event that you need to execute at to qualify for the Worlds or qualify for the team or something like that, like those big important events. But other than that, it's just training. So working a plan with your coach. I think I went shortly after I went down to Australia and did some training with one of my friends from the Netherlands, and we just put in a solid month or so down there, just sailing hard and having fun, and then
Sure.
got into the season after that.
How many gold medals, first place trophies, blue ribbons? How many have you won first places? Do you know offhand?
No.
No. I was just curious. I feel like just from talking to you, you're like, all right, here's another one. Time to go back and do some more work here.
So no, my whole mentality was like I'm very like obviously I love the fact that like I win when I do. And but unless it was the Olympics, like it's training.
Okay.
To me. That's like
Sure.
that was my mentality. So, we'd do an event and we'd finish, and if I made the podium, great. And then like people go out partying and I'm like, what am I celebrating? Like I didn't accomplish, I didn't sail the perfect regatta, so I want to learn from it. So then I want to be, and I'm probably a little bit psycho, but I'd be like, right, I need to go to the gym again tomorrow, like the journey's not over yet. We're not there yet. And so I very rarely went out and like celebrated everything. So a lot of it was like, okay, cool. That was good. It's a step in the right direction. how can we do better?
I think it's good that you acknowledge, like, hey, that was cool. And we did, did we do our best? No, but we did a good job and I had fun, like my mom and dad said. And then, but now it's time to move on. But I think the important piece there is still acknowledge, like, that was a good job. I can do better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have to do that in all things, whether you win or lose, right?
Yes.
Like you have to look at the positive. And then pick one thing that you learned. Like you can't dwell on all the negatives because that's just not good for your mental state. But you got to pick the good and pick one bad thing and learn from it.
That's the hardest thing to teach junior high. I used to coach shot and disc at junior high, and I would try to stress to them, like, yes, we're trying to win. Obviously, we're trying to win this duel or we're trying to win this tri meet. Ultimately, I would tell the really good ones, ultimately, these don't matter. Like this is just another practice to get to the league meet and then the state meet after that.
Yeah.
But they want to win everything all the time. And if they don't, it's devastating. And I keep trying to tell them, like, okay, you got second, but you also PR'd. Like, we have to acknowledge that you did a good job.
Yeah.
And then, okay, then we'll come, like, celebrate today, and then tomorrow we'll come back and practice and work on it so you don't get second,
Yeah.
But it's very difficult. I would imagine it's difficult for anybody, but I noticed it a lot because I was with them, the junior high kids. Like, it's okay to be excited or to acknowledge your good thing that happened and then continue on and try to get better.
Yeah. And I think it's something that athletes develop as they age. When you're young, I think all of us were like that. None of us, we just wanted to know. I would say it's not that we didn't know, but we just didn't understand the process. We didn't understand how it all works.
Yeah.
Now that we've been around and we've seen, we're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I saw that like 2 years ago, or I learned this 2 years ago and I just applied it today, right?
Yeah.
Like, but at that age, when you're 5 years old, throwing something or running or whatever, you're like, right? You're not learning anything, you're just doing it, right?
Yeah,
and then by the time you hit 8, okay, maybe you're learning things, and then it slowly is a building process, I think, over time.
So after your gold medal, your expectations are high, obviously, for the next Olympics. What was did you recognize a big difference between the 2008 and as opposed to 2012? Like, just obviously the outcome was different, but like just, I don't know, was there something that stood out as like, well, this is why I didn't get a gold medal?
Yeah, I think so. We after the Olympic trials in 2008, I took a month off sailing, didn't touch the boat, didn't do anything with it, and kind of felt refreshed coming back into it, and then kind of built my season into the Olympics. I changed disciplines for the 2012 Olympics, and our trials were a little bit later. So the China trials were in October, the year before the Olympics, but in 2012, our Olympic trials were in May, with the Olympics at the end of July or August or something. So it was a much tighter time frame.
Okay.
And so we kind of almost felt, I was sailing with 2 other girls at this time, so there's 3 of us, and it was kind of, we finished our trials. We had to fly back to the US. We had like 4 days off. Then we had to go to some press thing in Texas for a few days. And then from there, we had to fly to Lanzarote, which is an island in the Grand Canaries. We had to like a week of team building there. And then we had to fly to our world championships. And then, so it never really like slowed down. It was continuous. And I think by the time, like, things leading up to that point felt easy, like sailing was easy. Everything went smoothly. And then as the time got closer to the Olympics, like, things weren't going as easy or as smoothly. Not that we were getting worse, just it wasn't that we were adding pressure or anything. I think it was just like we were just getting tired, like mentally and physically. And I don't think we recognize I think we recognized as a team that like things weren't going as smoothly, but we didn't recognize in the sense that we needed to take a break before we went into it. And so in hindsight, we would have not gone to these other things, and we would have taken a lot of time, and then we would have gotten back into it going into the Olympics.
After that Olympics, did you I think what brought it to my attention is that you're trying to go to the Olympics now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you always Like, was there any time off from that, or was there always like, hey, I'm trying to compete, I'm trying to qualify for the Olympics?
No, I retired for 4 years from sailing.
Okay.
Like checked out.
Was that when you got into
So right,
CrossFit, or was that just
yeah, well, it was kind of like, so I got into CrossFit right before the London Olympics
okay?
and was just training it and whatever. And then got into it after the Olympics and did qualified for the CrossFit Games, but I was still sailing at that point. And then, but
Okay.
that same fire, that same spark wasn't there. Like I took the loss in London like really hard.
Yeah.
I felt like I let my team down, my country down, my supporters down, and it was like I didn't cope with it very well.
Mm.
And so like CrossFit was this outlet, and it was like I needed a break away from sailing. And so yeah, I retired from sailing officially and just started competing in CrossFit and did that for X number of years. And then in 2017, I tried to make a comeback in sailing, like dabble, right? Like gonna go sail this event and see how it goes. But because I'd retired, I was out of the drug testing pool. And the rules for water is that you have to be in the drug testing um, pool for 6 months before you can compete at an
Mhm.
international event. And I hadn't been in the pool for 6 months, so I wasn't allowed to compete. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. And then they got me into, a long story short, I ended up crewing now. Instead of driving, I ended up
Okay.
crewing at the front of the boat that I sail now, the 49er FX, with 2016 Olympian Paris Henkin. And we teamed up to do a trial, to do a run for the Tokyo Olympics in 2020. We lost that trials on like an extended tie. We ended up losing that trials.
Wait,
And then
do you say extended tie?
yeah, so
Like
then, so it's
you
the way
also
the
you also sound like you're like we the way you hesitated, it was like we lost it was bullshit. I mean that's the way you made it
no.
sound. Okay.
It was the way the trials were written.
Okay.
We just lost it. Basically we lost by 1 point.
Hmm.
But we tied. So the way the trials worked was the two world championships, the one in 19 and the one in 20. Like you took your overall score and those added them together, and that was your points. So in the 19 Olympic world championships, we got 9th and our competitors got 13th. And we go into the 2020 world championships, and this crazy last race, any of us, like the point difference between third place overall and 8th place was like super tight.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, the other Americans ended up getting third, so now they have 16 points, and we tied for 6th place, so that would have given us 15, but we lost the tie and ended up 7th, so we got 16 points. So now we're tied with the Americans because of that, and the tiebreaker was who beat who in the 2020 Worlds. So we lost that. It was a bit devastating.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems like a weird phrase. A weird phrase to say. We lost the tie.
Yeah, but we did.
Yeah. Wow. So okay. I cut you off because I was trying to understand all the words here, but so you teamed up with this person. You did all this. And is that where you're at now? Like, is this what you're still doing, or this new go at it? Is it something different?
No, it's the same. I'm still sailing with Paris.
Okay.
We took basically the 2020 Worlds ended in February 2020, and then what COVID hit in March 2020. So everything kind of shut down. I own a gym here in Pittsburgh. So my goal was, obviously the gyms were getting screwed over in the whole pandemic. So it was like everything I could do to try and keep the gym going, like running virtual classes, engaging with the members, everything like that. And so that was like my main focus through COVID. And then at the end of, as things started loosening up again, I started coaching the national team. And so I did that for a year and a half. And then they kind of talked us back into, like, yes, obviously the desire to do it was always there.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't the right time. And it kind of seems like now is the right time. So we partnered up again in September and have been training hard since then, and looking to try and qualify for 2024.
And where's 2024?
In Paris.
Okay. Um, you own a CrossFit gym? Is that what you're talking about?
Mhm.
Right. Okay. And that's obviously something else that you got into and successfully doing really well in CrossFit. When you retired from sailing, um, I'm assuming you were like, well, now I got this time. I'm going to do all this and put all this work into CrossFit now. Was that how it went?
It was just like something that was really fun. Same idea as sailing, like it was always different. Like every day was different. The workouts are always different. They're always challenging. You can always be better at the workout. And I just
Sure.
love that competitive side of it. And it was a different way to push myself to try and be the best I could be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we gave it a go and like I said, qualified and started doing fairly well at it. So
Yeah.
just kept going.
Fairly well. Yeah. I recently learned more about CrossFit because I'm in my basement now, but I use a CrossFit gym as my studio for my in-person podcast here in Perrysburg. So
Okay.
I've been getting more information and learning more. I am terrified to do anything like that though because my back is really bad. So I gotta it looks fun. I like it because like I don't mind lifting weights, but it's like lift weights, rest, lift weights, rest. And CrossFit seems like you're like obviously lifting weights, but you're always like doing something, always moving. If you're in this circuit, then this person's over here doing sit-ups and this person's over here, doing what like squatting and box jumping, like all these different things. It just seems like I like the constant motion because then it seems like you can get a good half, for a dad, like a half-hour class and to get like good workout.
Yeah.
It's so it seems really interesting to me, CrossFit.
Yeah, it is. It honestly is a great workout and training methodology. And I think everybody, like a lot of people think, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get hurt. But a good gym and good coaches won't let you get hurt. It's not about the weights that you move. It's about moving the weights correctly with good form. So you keep the weights super light whilst you learn the form. And as your form develops, the weights can develop. You're not going to get thrown in to do 185-pound power cleans in a workout on day one. Even if you can power clean that weight, it's not about doing it once, it's doing it X number of times.
Yeah.
And so a good coach kind of monitors all that and keeps your form good. So I see people's like hesitancy towards it, but honestly, like it is really good training methodology and it's a really good way to strengthen your whole body.
Yeah. Well, Anna, I appreciate you coming on here. It was awesome. Your story is awesome to hear everything. Obviously, all your gold medals and world championships, all that's really cool. But I mean, the best thing is you get to be in Perrysburg High School for forever. So
Yeah.
I'd hang my hat on that for the rest of my life. So thanks again. Good luck in the future. I'll be rooting for you to do well and to represent us in the Olympics again. But I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And you guys can follow at henkintobiassailing.com or follow me on my Instagram at atonicliftobias.
I will put those links in the show notes too, so people can click right on them. So
perfect. Thank you guys. And this is great. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks again to Anna Tunnicliffe Tobias for being on the podcast today. It was great to hear like all the work and effort. Obviously, it's a lot of work that goes into being an Olympic gold medalist, but just to hear everything that she goes through, how she can just win one thing and go right to the next, still important, with acknowledging the fact that what she did, but also moving on to the next thing. Just to hear the conversation of, have the conversation of her moving over here at 12. That was a obviously a hard experience, but for her to go through that and explain that to us and how she was feeling, and just everything along the way, she set herself lofty goals at the age of 13 and she accomplished it, and she just continues to strive forward and continue to get better, to want to get better, to compete at such a high level. So thanks again for her for coming on the podcast. And as always, thanks to Fort Meigs CrossFit for allowing me to use their studio space. Thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for always helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.